What's up, everybody? It's your boy Devon Taylor here, aka Deezus, and this is my podcast, Deezus Take the Reel. No, this is not a religious podcast. This is a podcast where we're talking movies, we're talking life, we're going to talk all sorts of crazy things. And guys, this is a bonus episode. This is a Tuesday. What is going on? I have a very special guest today for me to explain why this is a very special episode. It's Friday, guys. Well, I mean, it's actually Thursday during this recording, but for you guys, it is Friday. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it, guys. I have a very special guest today. He is coming off a monumental achievement. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would say it's pretty monumental.
All right. Yeah. This is the brand new reigning Schmoedown Champion John the Outlaw Rocha. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, I am super excited for this. This is going to be a real good time. So, quick story on how this came about, if you will.
Okay.
So Monday night, I had already finished my podcast for the day, so I didn't even have time to tease this or anything. I had already uploaded and everything, and I'm on a date. I'm on a date with this girl, right? And so I'm not even looking at my phone. Like my phone's in my pocket. I'm not even looking at it.
Smart man.
Yeah, because I don't like to be on my phone whenever I'm hanging out with people. That's just a thing that I do.
Always focus on the lady, man.
I look down at my phone and my phone is blowing up. Like I have so many notifications. I'm just like, what is going on? And I have a bunch of my friends are tagging me, and they tagged your tweet. And they were like, Devon, look at this. And your tweet you extended for the fans to get you on their shows. So I had to swoop in. I told the girl, I was like, I'm sorry, you're really cute, but I got to take a second. I got to send this email real quick. I'm so sorry. But yeah, and then so we made this happen. It all happened really quick, and I'm super excited. So what made you want to do this championship press tour?
Well, I just feel this is a good way to kind of promote the Schmoedown and promote the title. And I think every champion, last I checked, every champion does a little press tour in the sports world. So why not explore doing that with this? So
yeah, I think that is a perfect way to describe it, because I mean the Schmoedown has kind of evolved into something past the movie trivia aspect. It's got this WWE wrestling vibe to it. You got the characters, you got the trash talk, you got the promotions. So I mean this really has taken a life of its own. But before we get into a little bit more Schmoedown stuff, I have an opening segment for the viewers, for those of you who might not know who John the Outlaw Rocha is. If you don't know who that is, shame on you guys. But so I'll go ahead and say how I stumbled upon him, and then I'll let John tell you himself kind of who he is. So I found you, John, through Collider. You were you started popping up in a bunch of the Collider after shows. I'm a big Arrow and Flash fan, so I watched all the recaps last season that you guys were doing, and then you started popping up there, and they started popping up on the Schmoes, and then you pop up on Screen Junkies movie fights. And I mean, you literally just popped around everywhere, especially this past year. You're basically the Mahershala Ali of YouTube at the moment.
That's great. I love that, man.
But yeah, so how did you get going, especially with the Schmoes and stuff? Because you also podcast and stuff as well.
Yeah, well, Christian and I went to college together. So we've known each other for a long time. And I remember when he was starting the Schmoes stuff, I was always supportive of him. We'd run into each other and he'd give me updates. But I was always like, I'm an actor. So I'm focusing on this. I'm doing voiceovers, trying to get on camera for commercials and TV shows and film. And then I went through kind of a bad breakup. I was with this girl for 5 years and it didn't work out. And it was really like a down place. And Christian reached out to me, and just happenstance, he's like, hey, I've got do you want to be a guest on Far, Far Away on Geek Nation? So I came on as a guest over the next 3 months. I kind of enjoyed it, and getting to know Tiffany as well. And then he was like, well, I'm leaving the show. Do you want to take over for me as a co-host? So Tiffany and I talked, and I was like, yeah, sure. And then from that point I was hooked, and I explored the world more, and I just enjoyed what was happening and the people I was meeting. And I've always loved talking movies. So I think that's why Christian brought me onto the show initially, because he knows I love to talk about the stuff, and I go to Comic-Con every year, and I'm a hardcore movie fan and comic book fan and TV show fan, so all this stuff. So I basically saw what the lay of the land was, and that because I am coming into it later, I knew I had to work harder and do more for free to kind of build my brands and get people to know me and see if I could do this or not. So I pitched 7 shows to Geek Nation, which they took on a couple of them. And then we did them. And then my friend Miss Movies suggested that I apply to Collider to be a host of these after shows. And from there, it just kind of took off. And then Christian opened up doors for me at Screen Junkies. And then, of course, at Collider. And then the Top 10 show came over. So it was just a lot of stuff that happened. But just all at once. But it was hustling and working and sacrificing a lot of my time. But it was also something I love to do. So it was worth it.
Yeah, it sounds like everything just kind of fell into place as, because once the hard work, you put that in at the beginning, everything else just kind of falls into place after that. And especially like you said, you were going through a bad breakup, and I can literally compare with you there. Because I did the same thing. I was going through a bad breakup. I was just drowning myself in movies. And then that's whenever I started my YouTube channel, and then a bunch of stuff. And then I wanted to kind of focus in a little bit. So then that's how this podcast came about. So awesome. Pretty much exactly, like you said, you kind of take the pain part and you turn that into strength and determination. You go forward. So I really like that story, and it makes me feel like I'm going on the right path because I'll be moving out to LA in September-ish, sometime in the fall. So to do similar things, I've been doing a whole bunch of podcast stuff. This podcast, I love it. I think it's a blast. So you've done Collider stuff, like I said. You've done your podcast stuff. You've popped up over a bunch of different places. You are literally everywhere. But I'm a big movie fights fan. I'm a big movie fights fan. And I really enjoyed watching you on there before, you rose in prominence to Schmoedown. And, so I told myself if I made this happen, I was going to regret it if I didn't. But I was like, because I do games at the beginning of all my podcasts. I was like, I got to bring it up. I can't challenge you to a Schmoedown because you would wipe the floor with me. I'm not a movie trivia guy. However, I've been watching Screen Junkies movie fights since it started. So I want to do just a little mini. Just a little a movie spar. I know you're a competitive guy and I'm a competitive guy. So, we'll see what happens with this. But a movie spar, if you will. So we'll just do one round and we're going to do this fight. And I'm going to let the fans decide. This is I'm going to put this out as a little teaser for the podcast episode. People will kind of see us duke it out a little bit. You down for that?
Mm-hmm. Let's make it happen.
All right. To make this fair, I had my roommate prepare questions. He prepared 2 questions just in case if I don't like one of them. I did not see them. He sealed them to prove that I sealed them. This is American Psycho. I have a tattoo right here. It's my second favorite movie ever. So
what? Wow. Okay.
Yes, and I would never disrespect this movie. So I put the questions in here to guarantee that I was not gonna cheat. Okay.
All right.
So this is 100% fair, guys. So we are going to do it movie fight style. For those of you who don't know, Screen Junkie movie fights, it's where you argue nerdy movie stuff. That's pretty much what you do. Mm-hmm. And we both kind of open up. We do a little back and forth, and then usually there's a judge to decide it. But today you guys will be the judge on Twitter, on YouTube, and Facebook. You guys will decide who the winner is. So I'm going to open this up now. We're going to see what these questions are. You didn't know what you were getting into today, did you?
No, I did not. No.
Okay.
A nice, peaceful interview, but no.
You're like, man, this could be laid back, and oh man, but no, this is for fun because I love shooting the shit movies. So I have 2 questions here. Let me take a sec to read these real quick.
Wait, you get to read them before I do? That seems wrong.
Huh?
That seems wrong. You get to read them before I do. You're already mentally prepping your answers.
I'm not mentally prepping. I just need to know which question is better for this.
Okay.
Okay, they're both Oscar related, so they're pretty much around the same premise, and I'm going to go with the second one that's actually more movie related. So the question is, if you could trade one movie from the Best Picture category with another film that wasn't selected for Best Picture, what would that movie be? So I'll give you a sec.
Is that for this year?
Huh?
Is that for this year or ever?
This is for this year's Oscars, in honor of the Oscars this upcoming weekend. That good job by my roommate. He actually, this is a plug because we're doing a live stream of the Oscars. We're doing a watch party. But yeah, so in honor of the Oscars, I'll let you take a sec. I already have an answer because my number one film of the year was not nominated. So I already have an answer.
I'm ready whenever you are.
All right. Well, I'll guess I'll go ahead and go first, so that way you can still have a little time to gather your thoughts. Because I swear I didn't have this prepared, guys. I swear this has just been I've been seething though since the Oscar nominations came out. And so the movie I'm gonna take out. So the question is, guys, to repeat the question that we're about to brawl it out for a second with is, if we could remove a Best Picture nomination from this year and then replace it with one that was not selected, what would it be? And like I said, so my number one movie of the year was not nominated. It was only nominated for, I believe, only one award this year, which is a travesty. So I picked the movie Nocturnal Animals. Nocturnal Animals, you can see the poster behind me, is my favorite movie of this year. Tom Ford came out of nowhere. Like, this is a fashion designer, Tom Ford, and he had only directed one film before that, and I hadn't seen A Single Man until a few weeks ago. Nocturnal Animals is on a storytelling level, guys. It has this story within a story. To not spoil the film, it has a story within a story, and you have really 3 different storylines going on. And the way that Tom Ford was able to juggle all that going on top of getting the performances they got out of this crazy ensemble cast. You had Amy Adams in the lead, Jake Gyllenhaal, Michael Shannon, and the stealer of this film, one of my favorite villains of all time. I'm gonna put him up there. Like, I know it's still really recent, but Aaron Taylor Johnson really knocks it out of the park in this movie. He is unrecognizable, and the fact that he at least isn't even nominated after winning the Golden Globes, they nominate Michael Shannon. But I would take out Lion, and the only reason I'm saying I'm going to take out Lion because that's still the only Best Picture nomination that I haven't seen. So I would take out Lion, and I would replace it with Nocturnal Animals, because Nocturnal Animals, it's a visual spectacle. The score is fantastic, and just the performances are out of this world as well. So Nocturnal Animals, that will be my pick that I would replace in the Oscars this year. Take out Lion just because I haven't seen it, and throw in Nocturnal Animals because it definitely deserves more love.
Nice. All right, so what are the choices for Best Picture, right? You have Lion,
yep,
Arrival, La La Land, what else? Manchester by the Sea?
Moonlight,
Hacksaw
Ridge.
Okay, I would take out Hacksaw Ridge.
Hell or High Water's in there as well.
I love Hell or High Water.
I know you co-starred in it.
Yeah, it doesn't get good until the battle happens. So I would replace it.
Actually, I like the first half of Hacksaw Ridge better.
Do you? I don't know why. I've been in the military. Let me tell you, that was all ridiculous. So for me, I would say Sing Street.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. I would throw Sing Street in there over Deadpool. I know Deadpool's fantastic. Look, but I think Sing Street is something we haven't seen in a while. And it's such a good, well-written film about coming of age in the 80s. And the music and the way it's done is not necessarily conventional. And the ending is almost 70-ish, like 70s movies. Like it's almost like the end of The Graduate. Like they're going towards this dream, but they're not sure if they're going to be together. They're not sure what's going to happen. They're not sure what's going to end up with them. But the music is fantastic. The writing is so good. And the acting is fantastic from the beginning, where we meet this kid and he finds his friends. And then there's like the guy who's in charge, the mean principal, the stuff he's dealing with his family, with his brother who's trying to guide him. You know, these could easily fall into caricatures, but instead these are layered, nuanced performances from these fantastic actors who really bring a lot of weight to these parts. And so the connection that happens between these characters when they have their pivotal moments in the movie are more powerful than they would be with some throwaway film. That this genre, these like kind of coming of age movies have at times. But this one resonates more, and the music is great. Drive It Like You Stole It should have been the summer hit of the season, but it never really caught on, which is insane to me. And the direction is well done too. But there's a softness to it. There's a vulnerability to it. There's a touch to it that you don't see in a lot of films. And I think it really hits all the right emotional notes and moves you. And I've seen this like affect people of multiple generations, like grandfathers, mothers, and kids. I've talked to people in person and people on Twitter who crow about how much they love this movie when they discover it on Netflix, or they go see it in the theater because a friend of theirs recommended it. So that's the one that I would say.
All right. This is gonna be tough for me. We'll just do one rebuttal and we'll do a quick closing, and then that'll be that, and then we'll let the people decide from there. So, okay. But the way I'm gonna have to rebuttal this is because Sing Street was my number one movie of the year until I saw Nocturnal Animals. Or no, I saw Arrival. I saw Arrival, which knocked off Sing Street, and then I saw Nocturnal Animals, which knocked off Arrival. So Sing Street at one point was my favorite, and you are everything you said. It is a feel-good movie, like by definition. I mean, the music, everything about it. But the reason I would not put it in the Oscars over Nocturnal Animals is because it is a very simple movie. It's a very sweet movie, but it is kind of a story we've seen before. Not that the story wasn't done well by Sing Street, because that's what really sets it apart. But it's a movie that we've seen before. Nocturnal Animals is something completely original. It's one of the most original movies of the year. I know it is a little bit weird, and the Oscars tend to stay away from weird, but I think they're slowly starting to get there. And I think Nocturnal Animals would have been a good stepping point to start getting there, because it is a drama but wrapped up in horror elements. And I think especially this past year with so many good horror movies, and we thought maybe The Witch would have been recognized, but Nocturnal Animals could have been that horror movie that was represented in the Oscars this year, just because it only has a touch of it. So that's the reason I'd put Nocturnal Animals above Sing Street, because it's something we haven't seen before, and it's progression for the Oscars, I think.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying we've never seen a gritty film where we see people like turn on each other and explore the gritty underbelly of human condition and behaviors in certain moments? Is that what you're trying to tell me? That we've never seen that film before, ever?
I think the revenge aspect, I think, was just especially because of the levels of storytelling. So you have 3 different revenge lines going on. I think that is that in itself is something that we've never seen.
But we've seen revenge stories, like Sicario was one that was really well done last year that didn't get recognized, which was the top 10's favorite film of the year last year, both Matt Nost and I. But I would counter this. If you think it's easy to make a film from the Sing Street genre stand out the way it does, you're crazy. Because the line you walk between schmaltz and cheese is so thin nowadays, because we're so much more skeptical, we're so much more bitter, we're so much more questioning, and we don't want to care as much. But that film makes we see with the mean headmaster, which of course has kind of allusions to these headmasters that sexually abused kids back during that time. There's all this stuff that's running, this undercurrent that's running through this depression of finance, financial stuff, the poverty, the fact that their brother, his brother is a kind of a mess up because of drugs and depression. Like, all this stuff is dancing underneath. And this girl comes from a broken home, creating her own, ideology to live so she doesn't kill herself or become a prostitute or become some slave to some, asshole older guy to get used and probably turned out as a trick at some point. She finds a way out. So there's more than this isn't just a bunch of kids getting together, putting a band together. There's a lot going on with these characters underneath the surface that's layers deep, that speaks to a desperation that could have led to these all being like very sad, depressed people. But he, because his love for her is strong, because at that age, that's how it is. Love is like all consuming and the end of the world. right? If your first love is like that, and she still has a piece of her that wants to believe in something before she makes that turn into being depressed and sad. She believes in him too. And so when they take off, who knows what's going to happen? But at least there's a shot.
That
that really matters.
Yeah, I think you are 100% correct. I mean, that the movie does what it's supposed to do. It is to make you feel, to see, pieces of these people's lives and the way that the events transpire, changing them. They're changing their lives, from everything that's going around them. And I love that. I really do. But okay, here's the thing with nocturnal animals, though.
Wait, no, you had your rebuttal, though. You had one rebuttal. This is
the closing. We each get a closing, and this is my closing.
All right.
So nocturnal animals, one, it's a technical marvel. Like, I'm so surprised, one, it didn't get more technical awards. The cinematography and the score of this movie is so haunting. I listen to the score like while I'm at work in the mornings. It is so haunting and beautiful, and really tells the story. The opening that people could not stop talking about after you go and see Nocturnal Animals for the first time. The opening just shocks you and lets you know what kind of movie this is going to be. It is it's super artsy. I do get that. Like, it is really artsy, and it might not be everybody's cup of tea. But the achievement that it does, the balance between the powerhouse performances of all the four leads, I'd say, are all fantastic. The balance of the storylines. This movie is so well balanced, paced. It's a technical marvel, like, by film standards. Like, if you are you appreciate film, you will be blown away by Nocturnal Animals, and that's why I think where it really separates from Sing Street. So that's my closing, guys. Mr. John Rocha, your closing argument.
I already gave it.
Oh, that's your closing?
I can't add any more.
You got no more.
Dropping the mic after that.
He dropped it, guys. He dropped the mic. So that is it, guys. It is in your hands now. Who takes the win here, guys? What movie would you replace on the Oscars? I will put a poll up, and we will figure out who this winner is. But thank you, John Rocha, for being such an awesome sport for that, because I knew you wouldn't shy away from a challenge. I was going back and forth in my head, and I was like, do I do it? And I was like, no, I got to challenge him. All right, guys, before we get into the bulk of the show where we actually talk movies, just a few more reminders for you guys. Deezus Take the Reel airs every Tuesday. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Spreaker. And then, but on top of that, make sure you are sharing these guys. The rates and reviews on iTunes are a big help. 5-star reviews get you a shout out on the show, as well as, guys, check out the Patreon campaign, patreon.com/Deezus Take the Reel, and you can do at least $1 a day, and even that just makes a big deal. $5 or $10, it gets you some of those perks. So get to the Deezus Take the Reel Patreon page and become patron today. So, business stuff aside, let's go ahead and get into the good stuff, the movies, because, Schmoedown aside, Rocha, like, you've always been a guy of just like, man, I really just want to kind of talk movies for a sec with this guy. Like you really seem like the type of, let's go get a beer and just like chat movies about whatever. So I'm really excited about this. So you picked The Godfather Part 2. So I feel like we are going to talk sequels that are better than the first one. You picked a classic. I'm not going to say my pick is not the best sequel, but it's a sequel that I'd like to talk about, and it's a more modern pick since you picked a classic pick. And I'm going to go with The Conjuring 2. So this will be an interesting conversation. But so, Rocha, you go ahead and go first. What made you choose The Godfather Part 2?
Well, you asked me to pick a movie that moved me and affected me and still stays with me. And for me, Godfather Part 2 is that. Because I'm a mad lover of film, classic film, definitely. And this is one of those films that showed me what a film could do, like the breadth of the film. Like you just talked about Nocturnal Animals, where you saw 3 separate revenge storylines. Well, in this movie, we have 3 separate storylines going on in so many different ways, right? You have the flashback to Godfather, to the beginning of Vito Corleone's rise to power. You have Michael's ascent into the Nevada world and everything that's happening with that. And then you also have this stuff going on in Miami with a Meyer Lansky character that Strasberg is playing. And so so you have all this happening at the same time. Now, yes, both the Miami and the Nevada storyline occurring in the same timeline, but they almost seem like two separate stories that are very layered of what's happening. So, and they expose the underbelly of American politics, which still goes on today. Yeah. And the influence that people with power and money really have on the political system. And then you also have this amazing work by these actors in their prime: Pacino, Duvall, De Niro, Talia Shire, Lee Strasberg, who not in his prime, obviously, he's older, but this is one of his only films that he ever did, and so you have all these actors going forward. Of course, John Cazale, the great John Cazale, all that happening at the same time and really kind of changing the scope of film and how big it can actually be. And so for me, that's what I loved about them. It's just this side of an epic, And it's not my favorite Coppola film, because Apocalypse Now is still that, but Godfather Part 2 is the closest to my favorite Coppola film that it can be.
And yeah, the Godfather Part 2, what it did for cinema, like you said, what it really did for film, especially at the time that it did it. You said, you got everybody's in their prime, and the storylines, and I was talking with somebody the other day who had just watched Godfather Part 2 for the first time, and he had a problem with Michael's storyline, and he was like,
ooh.
And he comes to the end, and he's like, guys, I don't get it. Like, why was I supposed to root for this guy? Like, I don't like him, blah, blah, blah. And I go, no, that's exactly the point. This is his descent into you, because what he tried to argue, he said that Michael doesn't have an arc. And I think Michael's arc it's one of the best arcs.
It's a negative arc.
It's one of the best. It is. It's a negative arc, and it's one of the best character arcs of all time, I think, in cinemas. And and like I said, I'm making an assumption here. Do you think that Godfather Part 2 is better than Godfather Part 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. For me, it is, because the just like Captain America: Civil War is better because the odds against it failing are huge. And they knocked it out of the park.
Yes.
And I think with Godfather Part 2, he took an already great movie and expanded on the lore and the mythology of these characters, and could have easily made it like cheesy, or could have made it cop out. He didn't. He did do that, and he really turns your protagonist into an antagonist. Yeah, and that's what's amazing. And right, I don't want to. I mean, the movie's been out over 40 years. I don't want to spoil the.
You're not spoiling anything.
Okay. But what Michael Corleone decides to do about his brother at the end of the film is something you could probably never get away with now. And that's what speaks to what was great about 70s filmmaking, is they explored these really ugly, dirtier sides of humanity, and they put it on film.
Yeah,
and that's something you've rarely ever seen, and I still think that moment stands out as one of those like heartbreaking moments, because you can see the arguments for both sides, and that's what makes it all the more devastating.
Yeah, like you said, that's it's a testament to 70s filmmaking, because what you said, you couldn't do that today. You couldn't do the things that The Godfather Part 2 did. Like I said, it's so far ahead of its time, but also 70s filmmaking was so free-flowing and flow-thinking. And it really did, The Godfather Part 2, but what it did for sequels in general, of just taking an idea and expanding on it without going too far. I think they really had the layout for sequels. So that's going to transition to my pick. And, I'm not saying this is one of the best sequels of all time, but in terms of a sequel passing the first one, and the reason I want to talk about it is because The Conjuring 2 is a movie that stood out to me because, one, I'm a big horror guy, especially this past year. I've really fallen in love with this new modern horror that's been going on that kind of started with the first Conjuring. So James Wan returns for the second Conjuring, gets the entire same crew back, and that's key for sequels. That's really rare these days to get the entire crew back. So he gets the crew back, same writers, you get Ed and Lorraine back, and they expanded on their relationship, but then they also have this family drama going on. The Conjuring 2 really, because The Conjuring 1 is very straightforward. It's a possession haunting movie that we've seen before. So James Wan, he steps it up a few notches in the second one without going overboard. And this one's also a whole different style. Like Conjuring 2 is a very slick horror film. Like you get these cool camera tricks to it. These things that he's doing. The scene where you have the voiceover with her slowly becoming the old man in the background. I mean, that scene, and I just rewatched this movie a couple weeks ago, and I was showing a friend who had never seen it. And I would like find myself getting excited. And I'm like patting her on the like thigh to make sure she's watching like the coolness going on, because the thing that I've loved about horror lately is I've realized like what makes the genre special. I think you can do things in storytelling in horror that you can't do in a lot of other films. And especially the way that James Wan does it in tying in all these other genres. Like I said, this is a family drama. This is a marriage drama, a relationship drama. And you have so many things going on with all these supernatural elements surrounding it. And so I think even though it's a more flawed movie, I will say, than the first Conjuring, The Conjuring 2, it's like I said, it's fun. It's a fun watch. People complain about the length. I don't mind it whatsoever. I'll watch a 2.5 hour horror movie, especially if it's that good. So I think just for how to do a proper sequel, like when you think of the good sequels, Toy Story 2, you think of Terminator 2.
The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight, you know, they all have the same format. You take the original idea, you expand the world a little bit, you progress the story without going overboard, without just trying to repeat the film and doing an Anchorman 2 or a Zoolander 2.
Or a Hangover 2.
Or a Hangover 2. So, yeah, so that's our little sequel talk. And I'm going to keep the movie talk to a minimum because I want to get into some more Schmoedown stuff. Because... Okay. So the third part of this show of my podcast is called Storytime, and I originally said at the beginning we were going to talk about the Godfather Part 2 stories, but I was like, wait, hold on one sec, I need the story behind 2 matches in the Schmoedown, and I want you to just kind of take us through like what was going through your head, because there's 2 matches that really define your ascent to the championship, I think. And I think the first one is, and you think I'm going to go Bespin and Scott Mance. I'm going to save you the trouble today. Okay. I think I put you through enough. So I'm going to talk the Christian Harloff match. You came in. Oh yeah. You faced him blindfolded. And the back and forth between you two, I mean, it was tit for tat. Well, the final score was 23-20, I believe.
Something like that. Yeah.
And I mean, it was just this tit for tat. I mean, it was one of the first of like the classic matches. I think like it was like a heavyweight boxing match that literally went to the 12th round. And that's no exaggeration. I remember being so excited for it. So take me through your mindset of going in with the whole blindfold, and then how you felt when you came out on top.
Well, I will say it was early enough in the process where I was so intense about this, but still accepting the fact that I might not make it or might lose, but I just want to give it a good shot. You know, like when at the end of Rocky, when he's like lying in the bed, or not the end of Rocky, but right before the fight, but he's lying there before the fight with Adrian, and he says, "I just don't want to look like a fool. I just want to feel like I belong in that ring with the champ." So Christian and I have been friends, like I said, since college. So we have a different relationship, you know, so we ball bust, we give each other shit. There's respect, back and forth. And so I knew going into this that Christian would, because he's an East Coast boy, he's in New York, was going to pull out his stuff. And I'm East Coast boy too. And we understand. We talk shit on the court all day, all night. And then afterwards, you do the high five, you do the pound, you roll, and you respect each other as competitors. So I knew he was going to do everything in his power to like mess with me, to say little comments, to throw me off my game. And I respect that, you know, so I had to give as good as I got. So mentally preparing for the match, I was like, I've got to know everything there is to know about film. So for the first few days, I took a bunch of movie trivia quizzes. Yeah. And then at some point I hit a wall and I said, I'm just going to know what I know. Win or lose, I'm going to walk in there and see what happens. And the morning of the match, I had been getting over a cold, and I had been using these the sleep mask that I bought a few days ago to like sleep at work during my breaks at Universal Studios and sleep here in the house with my naps. to get my energy. So the morning of, because I was thinking like, I've got to do something to stand out. It's a big match. And so I brought the blindfold with me. I put it in my jacket. I didn't tell Christian. And usually I run things by Christian just to see how he feels.
Oh, okay.
But this one I couldn't because I was competing with him. No worries. So at the last second, I had, right as they were about to start the match in the first round, I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. So I had it in my pocket just in case I went to. I was going to wait till the last round, but then I was like, no, F it. I'm a showman. Let's do it. So I pulled it out, and it surprised Christian. One of the rare moments that I was able to surprise Christian with something. And I think it threw him off a little bit.
I think it threw everybody off. I mean, it was, I remember the reaction in the studio. I remember I was watching. I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I think there is no way that Rocha's losing this match. I mean, if you come out with a blindfold, you pretty much have to win. Like, I think that's just rules in life. So, but you came out, you pulled out the win, and then that really just started this epic run that you went on. Yeah. I mean, and you were mowing through opponent after opponent. And I remember because at one point, what was your lowest record? You were 1-3 at one point?
No. I'm 5-2.
You're 5-2. Okay.
I was.
So you lost to Mance.
After Ellis. Well, I lost Mance in my first match. Mm-hmm. Then I beat Makuga.
Okay.
And then I forget who I beat next. And then I beat Christian.
Okay.
And then I beat Riley.
And then you just went.
And then I lost to Ellis. And then I beat Riley again. And then I beat Dan.
There we go. So I mean, it was it was a ride. Like, it was the story that people didn't know how it was gonna play out. And I mean, you were the first, including you, and you also kind of took a turn because you were probably one of the first villains of the league, I'd say. The Outlaw. I mean, that's what you're known for, and you came out, and so that was also different in the Christian match because that was a more quiet entrance. It was a lot more subtle, and I really felt like you were in the zone. So then we got to talk about the championship, of course. You just defeated Dan Merle. And Dan Merle is his trivia skills. Like, I've always known he was good at movie fights, but then when he came into the Schmoedown, I mean, he looked almost unstoppable, but you were like the juggernaut though. You had so much momentum, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, it was going to be nuts. So take us through the championship real quick.
Well, I studied Dan before I faced him. I watched all his matches. And I trained in a way of like focusing on where he finds his momentum within matches, and you can see with Dan, he takes it easy in the first and second round, but then in the third and fourth, he becomes more intense. And then in the fifth, he goes for the kill. So if I could hang with him in the first and second round, because I saw Clark got just overwhelmed.
Oh,
Riley
my goodness,
as well.
Yes.
And Ellis was the only one that took him to the last question. And the reason he did is because Ellis maintained his composure through the whole thing. And so I knew for me, there was a great thing that Riley told me. In a moment of clarity, Riley said to me, he goes, there's going to be a moment where you think you can win against Dan. And that will overwhelm you. If you let it overwhelm you, you'll get nervous, you'll get scared. And if you don't fall prey to that, you might have a shot. So the moment came after the third round. After we both answered that question correctly, I went into the fourth round and I was like, I need to beat him in the speed round. If I can beat him in the speed round, then all bets are off in the fifth round.
Yeah.
So I had been training to do the fourth round rather, all week. Like, I had watched other people's speed rounds, and I played along at home by slamming the table quickly and answering the question quickly, like all these things to train myself so that I would beat Dan in that speed round. And when I beat him in the speed round, and I beat him like 3-2, I knew going into the last round I had a shot. And answering questions in the last round is just answering questions. So to me, that has nothing to do with like speed of slamming the table or anything like that. It was just answering questions. So I was just kind of chill. And then when I missed the first two questions, I thought, well, I made a good run. I had a good run. I got to the final round. That's what matters. And then when I answered the 5-pointer, I was like, okay, so at least I answered that. And I have a lead for a little while. And I'm forcing him to answer all three questions.
Yeah.
At least the 5-point. So it just kind of worked out. And
Man, so. I swear, technology. But yeah, I think people really underestimate how much strategy is in the Schmoedown, because I mean, yes, you can know as much about movies as you want, and knowledge is obviously a key factor. But I mean, there is a lot of strategy that goes into it, and especially with the championship rounds, that speed round, like you said, that's an interesting round because it's like. With the fact that you can, gain a lead, but you can also lose points. So I think people are kind of hesitant during that round. I think some people want to just keep their points to make it to the 5th round. So, I mean, you had to take a risk there to be a little aggressive in the 4th round. But like you said, though, that you came up with the exact strategy you're a sports guy. I'll make the equivalent of last year's Super Bowl. The defensive game plan that the Broncos made against Cam Newton, because they made the perfect game plan for him, and that's how they won. And I'd say that's how you won. That's
a great comparison.
You came
I'll accept that.
All right, you came in with a game plan, like you said, and you studied your opponent, and that's the way you came out on top, and it was a fantastic finish. So, you got the belt. The very last question of this show is. Who's next? What's next?
Well, I think I get to take a bit of a break and enjoy the belt for a month or two, which is more than I had time with the tag team championship. So I'm happy to do that. And I think that's fair because for a year I've had to fight some of the best fighters in this league and beat them. And I avenged my Scott Mance loss. So my only other loss is to Ellis. And I would love to avenge that loss at some point whenever he comes out of retirement. See his semi-retirement that he's in now. But right now there's a number one competitor match that's coming up, like you have, or semifinal match that's coming up, which is Clark Wolf versus JTE. And then if whoever wins that faces Riley, I think, right? Because he beat Levine, I think, or he's going to face Levine. He beat Levine. And so
Riley's working his way back up.
Yeah. And so Riley wants it. And, we hang out. Yeah. Riley makes his little comments when we're hanging out. So to me, I'm like, come get it. Like, I fear no one. And I didn't fear Dan before I faced him. I did a meditation exercise. I just was like, and Dan was like an hour and a half late to the match. And I thought there was a bit of gamesmanship. And so I just I didn't dress. I didn't sit around waiting for him. I laid down. I took a nap. I did meditation for half an hour, 45 minutes. Like, I prepped myself so that we were equals. Yeah. And so that I could walk into there and not be intimidated by the match. And so for me, if I can beat Dan, I'm not intimidated by anybody else. Will I lose? Who knows? But I know that I've got the right preparation to defend that belt. Yeah. And that's my goal.
You know what you're doing now. Like, I mean, because this journey, like you said, this has been over the entire year. Yeah. Because the loss to Scott Mance happened pretty early in the Schmoedown. So, I mean, this has been a very long journey for you, but I'm glad you get to enjoy the belt for a little bit. So there you have it. Go on your press tour, enjoy it. Where can the people find you so that way they can find you on Twitter and support you?
Oh, yeah. You guys can always find me at The Rocha Says, ROCHA. You can see all the shows I'm hosting, co-hosting. Please subscribe to The Cinephiles. That's my podcast that I love to do to talk about movies. We just released last week with Scott Mance, Star Trek II Wrath of Khan. And depending on when this gets released, this Friday drops in honor of the Oscars. We're doing West Side Story with two amazing guests. One is a composer and one is a Broadway actress and TV actress from Rescue Me, series regular on Rescue Me for a couple seasons. So it's going to be it's a really great podcast. We break down the entire movie and break down the musical score and what was going on with the dancing and the production history and everything like that. And Super Animation Game Time, which I do with Yuri, is on hold for about a month over at Geek and Sundry, and we'll come back with a whole new set and a whole different approach to the show. So I'm looking forward to that. And of course, every Friday on Collider Movie Talk, and then also Sundays on the Walking Dead review show.
There we go. Make sure you are finding all these amazing things, guys. Like I said at the very beginning of the podcast, Rocha is literally everywhere, so it's not too hard to go on Twitter or go on YouTube and stumble across you. It's not very hard at all. Or just, like I said earlier, turn on Hell or High Water. He's been a very busy man as an actor as well.
That is not me. That is not me. Shout out to that actor Gil. Gil's great. That is not me.
All right, guys.
One thing I will tell you, Deezus, is I am going to reach out to him and see if he'll come and walk me out for one of my Schmoedown
Please.
matches. I think that would be awesome.
Oh my goodness, that would be epic. That would take that'd be an early contender for next year's Schmoedown Awards for best entrance for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, find Rocha out there, guys, as well as follow me on Twitter at Deezus12, Instagram Deezus12 as well, and Deezus Take the Reel every Tuesday, guys. Share this with your friends. This was such an awesome episode, and I'm going to put that movie fights clip up on YouTube as well, so decide who won today's movie fight. But thank you so much again, once again, John Rocha, for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Deezus. Thanks for having me on, and thanks to everybody for watching and listening.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Check it out. Deezus Take the Reel.